Today we're going to be fitting electric brakes and also a 12 volt Anderson plug to the rear of a 2021 Ford Everest. Okay, so what we have here is we have the Redarc TowPro Elite version 3, which has been purchased, and then we've also got the specific wiring harness for the Ford Everest as well. Now you can't just wire this up yourself. I have done it in the past for other cars, but due to the adaptive cruise and also the autonomous emergency braking system that the Everest has, you need to make sure that you're using the correct wiring harness. And the main difference that I can see is this module here. Okay, so this module here from Redarc is designed to work with those two features of the car. If you don't have this kit, you may find that you're going along towing your vehicle, such as your caravan, and the emergency brakes won't work, or the adaptive cruise won't slow you down when you come up behind another vehicle. So for safety reasons, you do need to make sure you get the right kit. A little bit pricey at about $220, but this is what we're going to do. So while we're also doing the electric brakes, I'm also going to be running 12 volts power supply through to the rear of the car as well, to hook up the caravan battery for while we're towing. So we've got 8 gauge cable here, twin cable. Got a fuse, and then I've got also an Anderson plug here as well. So while we're under the car, we're going to run both of those and get the car ready for towing. So the first thing we need to do is we need to remove some of the trims. The gearbox needs to come out. The floor trim down here needs to come off. The pillar trim here needs to come off. And then underneath here, we also need to remove the trim under here on this side and also on the other side as well. So let's get to it, and we'll pull those out and we'll go from there. So with removing the gearbox, we've got 2 lugs, one on this side, one on the other, and when we compress that there, it allows that to slip out and actually fall down like so. Okay, and when that happens, we've got a little cable back here. This cable, we'll need to make sure that we put that back on afterwards when we're reassembling. Okay, so to actually drop the gearbox out, the glove box out, we pull these 2 pins out, one there, one over here, and the glove box should fall out from there. So I've removed most of the trims. This is the pillar trim off. Had to remove the trim down the bottom of the second row as well to get that one off. I really don't enjoy removing trims for the first time when I haven't worked on a car before, so I just don't know how they're held in. These ones are pretty straightforward though. You can see here, they do literally just pull off. You've just got to put a little bit of pressure around the actual point and then just pull it off. Just try not to lever it too much from one end, because you will end up creasing your plastics if you do. But you know, most of them come off really quite easily. This is the other type of lug that it is. Once again, just getting something under there, a little pry tool, such as some of these ones here, can just help you just get a little bit of leverage without creasing the actual plastic. This lower center console trim was quite a pain in the backside to get off. It's got 6 points of contact. Okay, once again, it will just lever off. It just takes a fair bit of effort. This one just comes in down here. Next step is to remove the center console. So if you look here, we've got 2 M7 bolts. They need to be removed first, and then it should come off fairly straightforward. So the trim around the shifter's been just loosened as well, because we'll need to end up drilling a hole over here. But I don't think I need to remove that to actually drill that hole. I'll be able to fit it, then just run the cables underneath and then through to where they need to go into the glove box. This came off really easily. Just a little pry bar just down under here, and it's popped off really quite nicely. I've left this in place, just moved it out of the way so I can get access. This is the power cable that connects from the battery through to the unit. So we've got a fuse here. We'll need to connect that to the battery positive, not yet until the end. Right now I'm just going to run this through the firewall. So if we look down through here, okay, on the right hand side there, just down through the back edge there's a hole already there with another small cable running through it. So I'm going to see if I can try and fit this other cable through that. If I can't, I'll just have to slice a little hole and then fit it through in there, and that'll pop out on the other side of the glove box. Cables come through the firewall like so. That's going up to the battery positive. Next step is we need to remove the grommet that's underneath the passenger seat carpet. Please look down there. That grommet just there needs to come off and then gets replaced with this grommet here, with all the wiring that we need to run through to the back of the car. So that will put the wires underneath the chassis, and then they'll run along the chassis line to the back of the car. Right, so there's a grommet there. Now I've decided I'm going to run the 12 volt Anderson plug following the same line as the Redarc. So what I've got here is I've got my cable for the Anderson plug. I've just cut one of them, the negative shorter, because I need to try and pull this through that grommet in the same hole that I just had the Redarc power supply running through as well. So it's going to be a bit of a tight fit, but I'm just going to tape this around a bit of wire and just have it stepped like so it might pull through a little bit easier, and then that will run through to the battery. So the 12 volts being run through the firewall as well, and I've just zip tied the two cables together along here, and both cables are now punching through that new grommet's been put into place. It's under here like so. What I will need to do is just run a bit of sealant around that to make sure no water or dust has access. Next step is just going to be to run the cables through along the chassis to the back of the car. After routing the cable through along the chassis, I've brought it out here. This is for the Anderson, sorry, this is for the Redarc. So I finished routing the cabling, and this is the Redarc cable here. Okay, so we've got the blue and the red coming in. Just put it through the sleeve here. Now what we need to do here is the blue needs to replace the blue that's on the socket already. So that one will come off, and we'll just insulate that and fold it back. The red needs to go into the same spot as the red on here, so they're both going to be joined together. Okay, so there'll be two red wires here. Blue will be replaced with that, and then this can go back on. Now while I'm back here, I'll fit the Anderson plug and then move back up into the car. So the blue has been replaced, and the other one's just been capped off, and then the two reds have gone into the red terminal together. I'll just put the two cables going into the Anderson plug. I managed to run them in through there, and the plan will be, let's put them in this housing at the moment, putting out one underneath and then the other 7 plug up on top, like so. The holes don't quite line up. I'll line up one hole over here and just drill a separate hole for this to sit in. That should look quite neat and tidy. So we have the TowPro mounted onto this bracket that it came with. This is going to go up, so if we look at the glove box here, I've just taken off this bolt here. Okay, this will come up. This is going to sit in underneath, up in there. Okay, before I do that though, I'll just connect this cable on, and I'll put this module on as well, and then I'll mount it up underneath. And there it is there, all mounted. So I just picked up that point there to mount it onto. It sits quite neatly in there. Next step will just be to connect the earth cable. Okay, so the earth cable is going to come down to this earthing point just here. And that module's also been added on there as well. So this is the real difference in that wiring harness, I think, which is specific for the Everest, so it works properly with the brakes and the cruise. I run the cable through for the dial. Let's just come out down here. Okay, I've also, now that comes with a template for marking where the hole needs to go. And so that's what I'm like so, and then you have to drill a 10mm hole. And so the next step is to then mount this underneath and plug it in, and we should be able to put all the trim back in. There's the final result of the switch now in place, and all the fascias are now back in as well. So next is under the bonnet. Final step for wiring up the Redarc is I've just run the cable down through here, across the front of the battery just there, there's a cable here, and then onto this positive terminal just there. I've got another accessory already hooked onto there as well. From there you can go through and you can follow your manual for setting up your TowPro Elite. Should be fully wired up well now. Alright, so now for wiring up the Anderson plug to the battery. I've just mounted the fuse holder just here. There was not a huge amount of space under the bonnet near the battery, so I've managed to just get it in there. Now the negative, we've got a chassis earth here, which goes directly to the battery. Okay, down to there. So we're going to hook the earth directly onto that chassis mount just there. So using a little lug and some heat shrink, I'll put that on, and then I'll earth that, and then I'll run the positive through to the fuse. Okay, then I'll come out from the other side with a fresh cable and run that through around to the positive side of the terminal. Place the lug on the negative terminal and then put the outer covering on it. Done the same with the positive over here. So I'm just going to route that down through underneath there, all the way through, so keep it tidy, and then through to the fuse over here. I'll just run this positive cable now from the other side of the fuse, thread it through, and then up onto the positive side of the battery. Okay. So run the positive through from the fuse, just weeps down through there, up on the side here, and then I've just jumped it down to here, just there. Okay, now with the earth, you've got 2 bolts for the earth. You can see it comes over here. Now that top one it's too long to actually get it out. So by the time you back it all the way out, it's hitting this, and you still can't get it out. So that nut down here is where I actually join the earth onto. Okay, you can just get the nut off in that gap there, only just so, but it's enough. Otherwise, the alternative would be to run it through to the actual negative terminal of the battery as well. But that's it, we're done. So cover comes on, cover over the fuse holder here as well, and then we're finished. So that's the installation of the Anderson plug and also the Redarc brake controller as well. Hopefully you found this useful. If you've got any comments, please feel free to share them as well, because I always like to grow and learn as I go. And obviously if you've got any questions, then feel free to post your questions too. Thanks very much.